I don't think I need a mic. Can everybody hear me? Pretty good. Woman after my own heart. She has a Dasani. That's Coke's brand water, so that's not a bad thing. So if I need that for a prop, I'll ask you, can I like sit it up here or something? You know, that'll work out really well. I'm happy to be here today. Number one, I have a huge commitment to young people. I think you're only as good as the people who help to guide you along the way, because what happens is you're told, go to school, get an education, and then you need to get a job, right? But if you don't get all that stuff that happens in the middle right, it could cause you a bit of a challenge, correct? So I think that if we as professionals commit to giving you everything you need, giving you the inside scoop, so to speak, then it gives you a little bit of an advantage. So every opportunity that I have, I make it my goal to give back. So I chaired the Philadelphia Youth Council in Philadelphia for about 3 years, almost 4 years, and that was me giving back to high school students. So it was actually befitting to finally give back to my own alma mater here. So I was kind of excited when they said to come, and even though I don't physically do interviewing at the college level any longer, once you have it, you typically, it's like riding a bike. When she said we need you, I said, okay, I'm sure that I know this stuff. So whether you're executives or whether you are entry level, the message will be the same. So that's what I want you to take away from this. I don't care if you say, well, that's what I learned when I went to my interviewing workshop at Ryder. That's what I did when I first graduated college. No, the principles that I'm going to give you today will be the principles that you can live by, regardless of what level you're at. Is that fair? It'll be pretty informal, because I think the more you're involved, the more you're going to retain, right? When you have to just sit and listen to me, that gets kind of boring, right? Because I have one of those voices that kind of is like, it'll just mellow you out, make you go to sleep or something. And I don't want you to go sleep on me, okay? All right, so when I talk about sealing the deal, what's that all about? It's not necessarily even about getting the job. You want to get the offer. Because at the point that you get the offer, you get to make the choice. Am I correct? Yeah. You just want to have them say, we'd like to offer you the job. That's the operative word, offer. So, as we go through this presentation, we're going to deal with 3 different components. And the first one being the phone screen. Oh my gosh. Who's ever had a phone screen? Give me a show of hands. How many freshmen in the room? How many sophomores? Juniors? Seniors? Oh, this is important to you. How about that? Okay, so the phone screen. How serious is it? When you think about a phone screen, a lot of times people will downplay a phone screen. It's just a quick little get-to-know-you conversation. You know how they have that big circle with the X? Wrong answer. What's that, Family Feud with the big red X? No, not happening. The phone screen is like an interview. You have to treat that phone screen as though you were sitting in front of that person. So I do a lot of radio spots for Coca-Cola. Do you know that you can tell your demeanor through the phone? You almost need to smile while you're on the telephone so they can feel your presence through the telephone. So for those of you who will say, I'm not really that kind of person, hey, snap out of it. I tell people all the time, I don't do well with excuses. Because anything that's not going to be conducive to your success and you rationalize it, it's an excuse. Right? We can play it up or play it down. And trust me, I have a 13-year-old who says I have no mercy. I'm a lot of fun, but I'm about business. I'm already telling him what he needs to do. Major in a job, major in an education and something that's going to afford you the lifestyle you want to lead. I tell him now, don't do things that aren't going to be conducive to your success later. So the people he's hanging around with right now in 8th grade are going to dictate the types of people he wants to hang around with in high school, and you typically follow the same type of crowd all the way through college. And if those types of people aren't conducive to your success, it's time to wake up. So get rid of them, right? So when you start thinking about how serious a phone screen is, who you are is going to show through that phone call. The person on the other line can tell your level of energy. They can tell your outlook, whether you're positive, optimistic, or negative, pessimistic, because it's all in your tone. Your tonality is critical. When you think about how much you should prepare for that phone screen. When you think about a phone screen, again, you got to think about when you prepare, there's a couple things I don't want to forget to tell you, because since I don't interview every day, I wrote a couple things down that I want to make sure that I don't leave out, because I would hate to walk away and say, oh, I should have told him that, right? And then you'll hold me accountable if you didn't tell us that, right? Okay, so think about how much you should prepare. When you think about your job interview or the company you want to work for, people like hiring people who are sure of themselves. If you are suffering from any type of low self-esteem, and I'm not saying people don't have issues and challenges, we all have something we have to overcome. But it will always be projected in the image that you're conveying. So you've got to think about what image you're conveying, whether you're on the phone or in person. But it always shows through. So when you think about where you're going to do the phone screen, that's important. Because when you think about where you're going to conduct your phone screen, they tell you what time to call or what time they're going to call you. Think about what frame of mind you'll be in based upon the environment that you're going to be in. So let's take a look at a couple things. Does he look like he's in a great setting? I didn't pay for those, so anybody who knows photo search, don't get in trouble with this presentation. I needed a couple of graphics, and it didn't stop me from saying copy and putting in my pictures. So I said, hey, if it wasn't allowed, they wouldn't allow me to do it. So when you see that little photo search thing up there, don't say I plagiarized or anything, because I'm not making any money off of this. So see, okay, that's the difference, okay? So yes or no? Does he look like he has the right setting? He can take some notes. He can be pretty much aware of his surroundings. It looks like he's in a nice, quiet area. His personality can show through. Because if not, then it's going to be obvious to the person on the other end of the phone. So when I talk about being sure of yourself, does he look like he's sure of himself? Because when you decide you want a job, you know in the beginning it's all about just getting checked, right? Your parents are telling you need to get off and out of their checkbook, right? It's almost time. Because trust me, I had a colleague who used to tell me how many more paydays she had before her child graduated. She graduated with a 4.0, but she couldn't wait to write the last check. So I know for you all, it's going to be about getting a job. However, don't just go for anything. And we do have a crazy economy right now. But if you can't really be committed and believe in what you're going to do, that's going to be very hard for you to show up well in that job, right? So when you think about what type of career you're going to have, because all this is going to show through in how excited you are about that interview and how the image you're projecting over the phone, right? So think about what that role is going to do for you for your long-term plans. Learn about that company so that you can be able to articulate to them, this is how this job is going to help me in my long-term goals. Because it's all about building blocks. How many accounting majors do we have in the room? You're my heroes. I always say that no matter what you do in life, accounting will always benefit you. And believe it or not, I think that's how I got the job at Philadelphia Coca-Cola, because it wasn't about finance or accounting for non-financial managers and all that. You can talk the talk, and you're not a stranger to a statement of cash flows or a balance sheet or an income statement, because when it's budget time, my budgets have never been kicked back because I know how to prepare a budget. But you'd be surprised how many people come up in the ranks. So even if you're not an accounting major, I would urge you, take some accounting in some way, shape, or form if it's not too late. Okay? So, that's a yes or a no. We said that's a yes. What about this one? You think it's going to show through? When he begins to speak, is he not going to sound really relaxed? He's going to say, yeah, you know your at ease voice and your astute voice, right? I always tell them at work, I very seldom wear flat shoes because I love high heels, but when I put on flat shoes and I dress down, I trip, it's too casual, I think I need to be hanging out somewhere, you know. I'm not serious. So what works for me may be different for someone else, but literally, it's a frame of mind. When I'm dressed up, I'm serious, I'm ready to go for it. You know, it's all about business. But if you put me in a Phillies t-shirt when the Phillies were winning, they said dress down, I need to just wear a red suit, because if I put on a t-shirt, you'll get nothing out of me that day. You know? So, there are people, trust me, who are doing their interviews that way because we can tell on the other end of the phone. Because you think they can't see me. She's laughing, it's real, isn't it? They can't see me. That person doesn't have a note in front of them, nothing. He thinks he's just going to get through this and then eventually he's going to get an in-person interview. You think he's going to be successful with an in-person interview? Okay. What about this lady? Yes or no? No? Why? No, she can. You can sit back a little bit. If she's got a pen or a piece of paper handy, I'm all for him. He said, no, she needs to have it right there, ready to go. That's right. No, I probably cut the picture off some. Remember the picture? It probably had another part when I cropped it. I probably pulled the computer screen on. See, I need to make it fit my slide. How's that? Okay, so that's a yes. Can we agree that that's a yes? Provided her computer really is in front of her and I just cropped it out? Okay, all right, so we can agree on that. All right, so you want to make sure that your environment's conducive to a successful phone screen. And we'll talk a little bit. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of the types of questions because I'm sure you've all had different classes and different counselors and guidance counselors to tell you some of the things they will ask. For me, I'm kind of sharing with you the things that typically are the pitfalls for people. So I'm giving you an up-close and personal perspective from behind the scenes. Because everybody can give you that list of questions. You can go on the internet, it'll tell you types of questions you should be prepared for. I'm not going to waste your time with that today because you can do that on your own time. I'm giving you the things that are not necessarily spelled out for you. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so now you've made it through the phone screen. You clearly impressed the interviewer because now they want to meet you. I'll give you an example of enthusiasm and being right over the phone. When I went to Philadelphia Coca-Cola, I wasn't looking for a job. For the first time in my life, I was working first time, 5 minutes from my house, Marlton, New Jersey. I live in Mount Laurel. I had a weeping willow tree and a pond outside my window, and 5 minutes. I had a director job. I thought I had arrived. So then I was referred to Philly Coke. And I'm like, gosh, I really don't feel like moving. My son's young. This is ideal. I was shopping on my lunch hour because, Marlton's got all those stores. I'm like, boy, it doesn't get any better than this, So, but I said, I have to be courteous to the person because networking is the other piece that's very critical. I have to be courteous to the person who referred me. So I have to at least call a network with this gentleman. So I call and I network with him. And over the phone, so I'm still saying, I don't want to move. They told me it's back in Philadelphia. I had worked in Pennsylvania all my life. However, even though it was in like on the main line, Bucks County, I had never actually worked in the city. However, it's similarly situated to Campbell Soup in Camden, so you can appreciate where the weeping willow tree makes a difference here. So I'm at G and Erie. So anybody who knows where G and Erie is in Philadelphia, I'm from Indianapolis. I had no clue. When I told people I was going to G and Erie, they're like, you're going where? I felt like I had reached the promised land when I saw Coca-Cola. However, back to the phone screen. I'm still carrying this thing out, just, being cordial. So I said, you know what, it's been really nice talking to you. By the time I had shared what I had done, where I was in my career, telling him I'm not committed to leaving where I am because I had begun a great work where I was, I said, I'll send you my resume. Because I figured I'd just send him my resume so that I could just kind of get this guy off the phone. This phone screen went so well, he said, I don't want your resume. I want to meet you. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. He doesn't even want the resume. He said, I don't want your resume. That's the first time in my life somebody said, I don't want your resume, I want to meet you. So I had to show up literally with the resume. And they had a grander plan for me than I had, but one thing led to the other. And we'll talk about making sure that you don't oversell yourself, because fortunately for me, I could back up what I said, because that was the first time ever that I had to be interviewed by a panel of employment law attorneys to make sure that I wasn't just talking a good game. So at the point that they brought, I thought I was going for a little quick interview at 5 o'clock, and it wasn't daylight savings time, just let me help you understand. It was scary. So by the time I finished, they had me interview with everybody on their senior team. I'm like, this is all off of a phone screen that went very well. They had lined everyone up to meet me on this senior team because I came by way of referral, first of all, so it wasn't like I was a stranger to them. By the next day, they arranged for 3 attorneys to come in and interview me again. So I'm like, oh, I can't drop out of this thing now. You know, so I had met the senior team and they were all okay, but I wasn't convinced. But by the time, literally, they had me interview with the attorneys, they gave me a contingent offer. And you know me, HR, you guys should not have put that out there like that. You had a lot of screening that still had to be done, you know. But literally, they backdoored it, and that's why they need somebody like me. But that's how it can go for you if you are impressive enough. Not that that's me all the time. It was just, God was on my side that day, I guess. Because let me tell you, I was able to go, and I've been there now, it'll be almost 11 years. But you have to understand that how you show up, the way you practice is the way you play. I don't know any other way to be, so my phone screen had to have been as impactful as my in-person. So that phone screen basically determined my destiny because he didn't want my resume. And a lot of times our resume gets there first, right? So the phone screen needs to be that much more impactful because they've got your sheet right in front of them. Make sense so far? All right, is it good stuff? Just tell me if I'm like putting you to sleep. I'm okay with it. Trust me, I'll change the course. We'll do something. I can't do any tricks or anything, but I'll figure out something. Okay, so the 4 A's. Appearance. I know you've heard this, and people say they've heard this many, many times, but you'd be surprised how people still show up for interviews. I tell my men, leave the fads alone, well-shaven. Women, leave the fads at home. If stiletto heels that are 5 inches tall are in style, that's not appropriate attire for an interview. Because you don't want to look like you could not fit the part or that you don't have judgment. It's about judgment. The way you show up in your personal, professional appearance dictates, and it sends a message as to how much judgment I have around appropriateness. Because if I can't trust that you're going to show up for my interview in appropriate attire, how can I trust that once I hire you, you're going to be appropriate? So people will downplay that and say, well, or like mini skirts. You'd be surprised how many women still wear mini skirts to interviews. It's a suit. Okay, but it stops right there. You know, and when I was younger, I liked mini skirts like the best of them, but they had a place and a time. My young men, it's little things. Be well pressed. Have your pants hemmed. You'd be surprised how many people don't believe in taking something to a tailor. The pants are 5 inches too long and they're dragging the ground. You don't just buy a suit and put it on. Needle and thread costs about 99 cents. I sew also. I majored in sewing coming up in high school. So I used to compete. So I'm a seamstress as a hobby. But you'd be surprised how many people won't pay $5 to the dry cleaners to have their pants hemmed properly. Women as well. I had a woman that came to church the other day, and I could not believe. I said, can you give me those pants next Sunday and I'll hem them for you? Because that's setting an example for our young people. If the adults are doing it, why would the young people think that that's not okay? So when you think about your appearance is that first impression. You had the phone screen. Sometimes you don't have a phone screen. And let me tell you, when I was younger, earlier in my profession, when I was a recruiter, you know what I used to do? I happened to have an office that looked out onto the parking lot. And so my applicants didn't know I saw them from the time they got out of their cars. They trying to get the last smoke in, whatever, you know. I did this like it was weed or something, right? But I never was weed. Trust me. We just went to Lenape High School's back to school night, and it was all focused on drugs and how they got steroids and drugs. So we were teasing my son. So, oh God, I never smoked. I was never a weed smoker. But anyway, they're smoking their cigarettes and all this stuff, you know, trying to get. And when they come in, you think it doesn't follow you? It follows you right into the building. I'll give you another funny one. This is how anal I always was. When I went for an interview for the director job, remember I told you the nice, wonderful, hopefully these stories help, because I like to make it real for you, so it's not just all theoretical. These are practical, real-life experiences that I've had. I had the nerve to, and it's just my luck. My interview for the director job, it looked like a tsunami outside. I didn't want to cancel, because it would look like, okay, she canceled for some rain. Granted, it was a tsunami. So this is what I did, because I'm always thinking. I looked at how the wind was blowing the rain. So I said, okay, if the wind is blowing the rain this way, if I park my car here, it's gonna not be able to blow my umbrella out. So I parked my car in a way where the wind would be blowing the right way when I got out so that I could get into the building and not be wet. Had I parked the other way, the wind would have taken my umbrella away and I'd have been saturated. So it's little things like that. You're laughing, it's real. It's little things like that where you've got to think about every single thing. And when I got in there, I never forget them saying, "How did you not get wet?" I said, "I was very strategic in the parking lot." I was extremely strategic in the parking lot. So those are all the little things that make a difference. So you got to think outside the box. So if I could have been as well dressed as they get, but had I been soaked and hair all a mess, I would not have made the same first impression. So you've got to pay attention to all the details. Because what happens is we can tell the ones who set themselves apart. When you're totally polished, you got that much of an edge on the next people that walk through that door. Because they've got to overcome the first impression. If you're doing what you need to do to make sure that you stand out, you don't have anything that you have to overcome. Because you have to overcome anything that sets you back, that you haven't thought about. Attitude. People have all those things. Attitude determines altitude. You can do the numerical value of the alphabet. Anybody ever do that exercise? Where you do the numerical value of attitude based on the alphabet and it comes up to 100%? Has anybody ever done that? I'm going to give somebody some homework in here. Do the numerical value of everything, of every letter in attitude based on the alphabet. There's 26 letters. A equals 1. T equals a number based on where it falls. Somebody do that little homework while we're in here. Watch it add up to 100. So it's 100% of everything. And I got that, believe it or not. It took me all these years, and that's probably why you don't have it. I was at a leadership training in Houston, Texas. And I was like, wow, I had to come all the way here to learn that attitude equals 100. But what I'm saying to you is, your attitude is conveyed through your dress. Your attitude is conveyed through your posture. Your attitude is conveyed through your outlook. Enthusiasm should be contagious. And you can probably tell I'm one of those people who's extremely enthusiastic most of the time. Because you have choices in life. You can either choose to be a somber, low-key. I'm not saying everybody has to be off the chart like me, because trust me, me and my husband are total opposites. We have to be, or we'd probably knock each other over. You can be enthusiastic, and it come through in how you're presenting yourself without being off the chart. Now, you ever see those people that's like, okay, you can stop smiling now? That's not me. I'm enthusiastic, but I'm not walking around like this all the time. That would not be me. However, your attitude is projected in everything that you do. How you feel about life, how you feel about the job that you're seeking, how you feel about your family, how you feel about your education. I can guarantee you that your counselors could probably give me tons of insight on all of you relative to how you show up just in how you speak to them. Because it's not what you say, it's who you are. And what someone told me, it's Ebonics. It's not what you say, it's who you be. How do you show up? Your attitude's projected. So we've got to make a determination, will that attitude fit on our team? So think about it. Is your attitude conducive to your success? Because if you can't get past the interview, don't worry about the offer of the job. What attitude are you conveying relative to your job search? Are you positive about it? Or are you going into it, they're never going to hire me? Well, you keep saying that and they won't. Okay? Any questions? Any comments? If I'm missing some great old cliches that are out there that you think would benefit this group, by all means, raise your hand and you can share it. Okay? Aspirations. Okay, so what does aspiration have to do with anything? When you meet with your prospective employer, if you cannot articulate what you aspire to be and to do in life, it means you're one of those people who's very undecided, doesn't know where they want to go, and people are looking for people, employers are looking for people who have a goal. Can I tell you, part of most employers' talent management process requires people to input information into the system that says, where do you want to be 3 to 5 years? Where do you want to be 5 to 10 years? Because that tells us how we should be developing you. We don't need to see into the crystal ball. We want you to just tell us. So what is really important for you during the interview process is to be able to articulate what you aspire to and how that job fits into that equation. So if you're going just because I need a job, they're going to be able to tell that you're only here because you just want a job and you just want a paycheck. And God forbid, if no one's ever told you, don't ask about the benefits on the phone screen or the interview. But you got some people who will come in and it's very obvious that's all they're here for. But you don't want to fall into that trap. So be able to articulate, and at that juncture, it's because you've done your homework, you know what the company's deliverable is, and when I say deliverable, I mean what their product and or service is, what generates revenue for that company. How do you fit into that? How can you tell them what you aspire to be within their organization to add value to their company? These are the things that a lot of times aren't in those little questions they say that you might be asked. You may not be asked it, but you know how they say, is there anything you'd like to say to us? Have something great that adds some value in that interview relative to how you think you could fit well into this company based on what you've always aspired to be. Accountability. How many times have you heard that throughout your career at Ryder? Anybody hear that from somebody? If not even Ryder, your parents. Can I tell you, the biggest challenge in many employers is making certain that you hold people accountable. Because you have to be accountable for your success through this interview process. Remember we started out, no excuses. Excuses are not an option. So you've got to be accountable for making sure you prepare for that interview. You've got to be accountable for making sure that you've done your homework about that company. You've got to be accountable for knowing what you want to do in life. At 13, my son already knows he wants to be in sports medicine. Leonard B. High School has a great sports medicine program to prepare them pre-med students. He's a straight A kid, thank goodness for that. But if you're at this juncture still trying to figure out what you want to do, you need to take some time off from your friends and do some soul searching. Because somebody, whether it's yourself, your mom, your dad, somebody's just paid for 4 years of college and you're still trying to figure that out. By now you got to really begin to define in your own mind, what do I want to do? And I'm not saying it won't change. I started out in accounting. Had a natural progression into HR based on office management type stuff that I was doing. However, I kept building on it. One experience lent itself to the next level. Okay? So you got to really do some soul searching on your own. And a lot of times it's just sitting back, rehearsing what you're good at. What classes were you really good at? What really makes you tick? You're accountable for that. You control every single one of those. Every single one. Anybody disagree? Anything up there that you're not accountable for? That you don't control? That you have no control? Anything up there that you don't have total control over? Raise your hand if there's one thing up there. I'm open for it. Remember, it's all about the slide. I might have left something out. Remember the lady's computer thing going on there? Okay? All right. So, let's move on. Social media. Ooh, that's the buzzword now, isn't it? How about that? So, it's all about befriending Johnny and befriending Susie and making sure that you're caught up on the latest and that everybody can see how great you looked at that party and, you know, how we hung out over spring break, and that's all good stuff, isn't it? Anybody think that's good stuff? It's not? That's not fun to you? You guys don't do anything on your spring break? Nothing? What do you do? All right, come on. What group do I have here? Either I have the dishonest group or you just really don't want to tell me. What are you doing on spring break? Hang out, right? With your friends? When's the last time you had your picture taken with one of your friends? A couple classes ago with the come on, camera phones? How about that? How many people had their picture taken in the last 24 to 48 hours with a camera phone? Oh, now you're opening up, you're telling me some truth now, right? So, do you know what they're doing with those photos? Not totally, right? At the point that they take them with their camera, it's their property, right? How many people have a Facebook page in here? Ooh. So if I'm your friend and I took your picture, I can put your picture on my Facebook page. I don't care what you were doing. It's my picture. How many people have unsecured Facebook pages? Okay, so you wised up on that part, huh? Too many horror stories out there, right? However, you never know. It may be secured today. You like Julie today, you like Dave today. Dave's mad at you tomorrow. His stuff is out. Okay? Make sure that you think about every one of these social mediums and how it could affect you. The one thing I've always lived by is I don't ever want to be in anybody's compromising position in a picture, because that's blackmail. When I grew up, that was just called blackmail. I don't know who could have blackmailed you. I ain't have any money, but they could blackmail you. But you think of how many lives have been ruined. It's excellent if it's used the way it's supposed to be used. But employers will go on to get insight into who you are. I didn't even know I was on Google. If you Google me, a lot of stuff pops up. It's all relative to my profession, thank goodness. But those people didn't call me and ask permission to put that stuff on there. Because at the point that they were at whatever event I was speaking at, they took pictures, jotted down what their synopsis of the event was, and posted it. And as long as it's not untrue, I can't go back for any type of defamation or anything like that. Fortunately for me, it's all positive stuff. But think about it. If it weren't, how that could be hindering me right now. I have board obligations. You think when they ask me to join boards, they're not checking into my background, seeing what I do, what kind of life I have? Because it's all about the integrity of the individual. So, what's integrity about? It's what you do when no one's looking. Ask yourself, what do you do? What do you say? Who do you hang out with? What are you doing that may not be conducive to your success? That could end up on any one of these social mediums. I'm a proponent of LinkedIn because I believe that you use an avenue that's designed to do what you need to do. Facebook, in my opinion, is so intermingled with personal life. I don't want anybody finding me relative to my personal life. Personally, I don't even need the people that know me finding me that well. You know, I don't like that much access, but everybody has their own thing. However, when it comes to my profession and wanting to have the ability to network and all those things, find the medium that's going to promote you in a positive light. Make sure you got yourself out there in a positive light. And what's interesting is I always say to people, you're the person who's writing your story. You can either write an awesome novel that everybody wants to read, and either way, you want a novel that they want to read, but you want to have them want to read it for the right reasons. Not because it's a mystery, not because it's one of those trash novels, because we all have a story that we're going to tell, and our lives are going to tell. Think about what kind of story yours is telling right now, because you still have time to make a shift. I always tell people who are young enough, you have the opportunity right now that many older people don't have to make a change. If what you're doing is not conducive to your success, and also think about the types of jobs you're applying for. That when we go back, appearance is going to vary. I don't think anybody at Ryder is aspiring to be a hairstylist. Anybody here majoring in hairstyling? Okay, so I'll give you an example. I was at the hairdresser. I go every Friday evening like clockwork. And so my shampoo girl says, oh man, I went for this job interview. Me and my girlfriend went together. This is her talking. This is me just paraphrasing. She got the job and I didn't. I looked at her, I said, did you have that hairdo when you went? I'm in the shampoo bar. And I'm saying, is that how you had your hair when you went? It was fine to get a job in a hair salon because what's trendy, what's hip, the long fingernails, the piercings, that's all fine. If you want a job in a tattoo parlor, if you want a job where that stuff is welcomed. But if you're going for an office job or you're going for a job that requires you to be conservative, don't count yourself out for things that you have control over. I tell people all the time, if you got multiple piercings, wear them on the weekend. I used to wear my mini skirts on the weekend. They didn't know I wore mini skirts at my job. Because to me, what was more important was prioritizing what was going to afford me the lifestyle that I wanted to live. So if you're going to an interview and say it's some fun place, you're in the corporate headquarters of, maybe it's Fun Zone or Chuck E. Cheese, and they don't believe in dressing up because they don't want somebody that's too stuffy. You've got to use your intuition to determine, okay, I don't want to go in there buttoned up tight, you know, to my neck with this tie on, or looking like I look today going, and they've already told me that it's dressed down. Make sure you follow their lead. They'll tell you if you ask. You know what kind of environment it is, that kind of thing. But I always say err on the side of caution, wear a suit. I'd rather be overdressed than underdressed. Because most of you have professions that you're majoring in that are going to require a suit. So I use the tattoo parlor as an example. I use the hair salon as an example of, this is a young woman who's trying to get out of that industry and go into something else. She's actually a certified phlebotomist, but she can't get past herself. You ever hear anybody say, get out of your own way? Sometimes you're your own stumbling block. Because it takes a very focused person who's very much geared towards success to say, maybe, just maybe, I'm not presenting myself properly. Because at the end of the day, when you don't get the job, I always say, I don't care. If I don't get the job, if I know I've done my best, there's only one person that can get it, right? Every position you're applying for, there's one job opening, right? In most cases. Don't let it be because of something you did. Let it be because there just happened to be a person who was better than you. But you did everything you could have done, and you were successful at your preparation, your interview technique. At that point, you can walk away feeling okay about yourself and say, maybe that one wasn't for me. Make sense? Any questions? You guys are awful quiet. I know I don't have the answers to everything.
I have a question. With tattoos being so prevalent nowadays, I know you said the tongue piercing, and you can, of course, leave that at home, but how are they handling this influx of tattoos?
What you'll find is, you'd be surprised how many people I have on my staff that are trying to skin graft off tattoos right now. Young women who thought it was cute when they were younger to have them all right here and everything, and then when we go to a formal event, we were with President Clinton, and she just like, oh my God, she was mortified that she had to show up in her after five. She had one here, one right there, and hey, business is business, we have to keep it moving here. So we have one gentleman who's a sales rep. He's got the sleeves, but apparently his mother was a teacher. She said, don't ever put it on your neck, and don't ever put it on your hands or anywhere people can see. So believe it or not, he's been very successful with us because we don't believe in discriminating, but what we found legally is that an employer has the right to establish who they want and how their company is represented. So they can say that if this is a sales position or a position that's within the eye of the public, we don't want that to be our representation. So all you do is limit yourself when you begin to do things that are permanent. I can't say I had all this infinite wisdom years ago. I'm just afraid of pain. So I couldn't do it. You know, they just called me a punk. It wasn't because I thought, oh, no. I just was afraid of pain, didn't do it. Or many women have them where you can't see them. Many guys have them where you can't see them. If they can be concealed, then that's your business. But when you begin to put it in the open and you make that statement, you limit yourself. And it's okay if you're okay with being limited. But I would never want to limit my potential and then have to regret later because I was making a statement when I was younger. Because right now I see a lot of people here who don't have them. You'd be surprised how many grown people are getting them after the fact. They didn't know we were going into a recession. They have to look for a job. They've been working for Company A for 20 years. This tattoo's not going to hurt anybody. Now they're trying to get a job at Company B, and they got a tattoo on their neck. They thought they were home on the home stretch. 20 years, same company, no big. There's women who are really putting them on their feet. Have you seen people who put them on their feet? You got one? Oh, girl. Just wear boots. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, you've got to be careful. And now that, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I don't know who in here invests, but I'm really seriously looking into investing in that stuff called Wrecking Ball. It's a tattoo removal system. There's going to be so many people looking to remove tattoos, it's not even funny. Because it's a fad right now. It is an absolute fad. And you don't want me to go through my long dissertation of what it really means, but we'll go on that another day. You can call me on a separate line for that one. But literally, be careful, because when you put on a pair of heels, how would I hide that tattoo right now? Where would I put it? Or wear opaque stockings. But you're going to have to go for your interview in the winter. No, I'm just kidding. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. But you have to realize that all those things come into play. Even with piercings, you can take those out. That's not a big deal. You can easily take them out. When I first started working for Philly Coke, I had to be the one to implement the policy around piercings. Because I'll never forget, I believe in learning the business. I got out, I went on the trucks with the guys. There was a gentleman who was representing our company every day in stores who had like 8 holes. His ear like it was about to bleed. I'm going, he's going in front of our customers every day with that? That is so not acceptable. So we came up with a limit of 2 per ear. So you could be a man with 2 piercings, but they're limited to your ears. No nose, no lips, none of that, because we have a right to say who we want representing us. It's really, really important. And the nice thing is, she was sweet enough to say, oh man, because you know what I always say to people, when you feel like you've arrived and you can't stand corrected, there's a problem. Because even at my level, I can stand corrected. When you're teachable, people want a person who's teachable. None of us get it right every time. But when you're willing to admit, okay, maybe I didn't do that one so well, that is appealing in an interview. Having your listening skills sharpened in an interview. Don't be so focused on what you need to say next, because you'll miss what they're saying. Okay? Really, really important. Now's the time to make the change. I don't think it's never too late to make a change, but why not make it before it costs you something? It could potentially cost you the job. Right? Any questions? Any other comments? So, if you got the piercings, and don't think we can't see it in your tone. When you're talking, we can absolutely see it. And the worst thing you want to do, and this only happens when I'm doing a presentation, my nose tends to run. But the worst thing that you can do is think that an interviewer doesn't see it. Because we've had people to show up. Oh, hold on, we're pushing buttons here. Going back to the beginning. Alrighty. Back to the left. The worst thing you can do is assume that the interviewer is not sharp. Because trust me, we're trained to look for stuff. Anybody ever have a tongue pierced? Not to call you out. When you first did it, did you think your mom didn't notice it? Huh? She took you?
14.
Okay. That's why I'm here, because everybody has a different value system, and I'm okay with the fact that she took you, but I'm here to let you know that it could potentially hinder you. So that's where we all have, you ever hear it takes a village to raise a child? No one person has all the answers. There's some things that my mom left out that my grandmother gave me, that some people in my life now have given me. Don't think that you're going to get every answer at home. Because if that were the case, we would have perfect interviews every time, because every parent would know exactly what to tell their child, because they all want their children to have a job. Right? So I'm here to help you out. If you have a tongue piercing and you think nobody notices it, you can't talk the same.
I thought we weirded that out, actually.
No, trust me, if I talk to you long enough, I'll see how you're rolling your tongue and all that kind of stuff. And it becomes very obvious after a couple sentences. So you have to recognize that it becomes a distraction for your interviewer. And then they're watching and they're going, what? I mean, so now we're going to have you out with our customers. And people who have them typically will show them off without thinking about it every now and then. You'll be sitting there and then you decide to push it up or push it down. He's laughing because he knows I know. And it's funny because I think I've been fortunate to be in all kinds of circumstances. My husband's cousin got her tongue pierced. My son was maybe 4. And I'll never forget saying, ew, that is disgusting. And so she looks at my son and says, you like it? He goes, ooh. He liked it. I'm going, you're not supposed to like that. You will never have one, you know. So it is a matter of personal preference, but you've got to recognize what it's going to do for you. If it's not conducive to your success, I say get rid of it. Because you know what happens? People come and they do the amazing makeover. You're going to take your tongue ring out. You're going to put on your opaque stockings. Somebody else is going to have a nice attitude. Mind you, and your disposition is fabulous. I love your whole demeanor. But some people will come, dress it up, look all wonderful. They get the job, and then on the first day, it's like, is that the lady I hired? Because then she put all her stuff back in. All of a sudden, the tattoo's hanging out. The tongue ring is moving, and you're showing it to me. I'm mortified. Or you dress really nice for the interview and every other day you don't use an iron. Don't sell something that you can't deliver on. So that's why I tell people, don't do the amazing makeover. If who you are is not conducive to your success, you need to make a total change. Because it's not going to be good for you. Because you can't be one person over here and think you're going to be able to just transform every day for work. It doesn't happen. You ever hear people say, we hire you for your qualifications and your credentials, and we fire you because you don't fit? Because it's all that extraneous matter that begins to get in the way of you being successful on that job. Because you know why? You sold us something that didn't really exist. You know that amazing home makeover thing? Don't do that. No, you remember glamour shots? Anybody ever see somebody get a glamour shot? Then all of a sudden, no, I had that happen. I had a I'm telling you, I tell you, I was designed to be here to have all these stories for you guys. We're almost done. This woman showed up, she was at the top of her game. She worked as a temp for maybe 4 months. Then, after we hired her full time, we had issues with BO, body odor, for anybody who doesn't know that. We had issues with total hygiene altogether. She then told me she didn't wash her hands on a regular basis. I mean, it was just, I'm saying, somebody's going to jump out like Ashton Kutcher or whatever and tell me I've been punked. But don't make your employer believe they've been punked. Because that's what happens. When you do the amazing makeover, all of a sudden, the real you shows up, and it's not the person they interviewed. So, do you have enough tools in your tool chest at this point? Everybody get the message? Is it real stuff that can resonate with you? And it's not a hard thing to do. They say it's simple, but it's not easy. Because who we are is who we are happy to be, because we've decided this is who we want to be. But again, check yourself. You control it all. It can help. It can hurt. It's up to you. So, you got all this information? Seal the deal. Thank you.